truck 1 to the IC. We have a lot of fire.
I just couldn't get it out of my head.
You signed up for this, so suck it up.
They were in the room down the hall.
Suck it up.
And I just self-destructed right there on the stairs.
Suck it up.
I'm not your typical story of every little boy grows up and thinks they want to be a firefighter. I don't think that was me growing up. What I did know growing up is that I wanted to help other people, and scouting was a huge part of my life growing up. I'm an Eagle Scout. I spent my entire, from first grade up through my senior year of high school, and then even in college I did some stuff with Scouts, and I just know that I like to help people. I like to see that direct reaction. You know, you show up in chaos and you leave and things are settled and taken care of. And I just found that to be a very rewarding feeling. And we train for these situations that we go into. And physically we go into these, and that physical side is what we train for. The back end of that is that mental side, and that's where culturally we are starting to see a shift in the fire service and starting to address those things. We're starting to find resources and provide resources and kind of put that at the forefront of our mind, is how to handle those things that we don't train for. So it's been 3 years now. It was in December of 21, and we got called out. It was 1:20 in the morning. Vehicle collision with extrication, something that we run quite often, that we don't think twice about. You're in game mode essentially. Here's what we got to do when we get here. Engineer, you know, as the captain, I'm in charge of that truck, and so I'm saying, when we get there, engineer, I need you to do this. Firefighter, I need you to do that, and making that game plan. We get there, this vehicle's on its top, completely decimated. I couldn't even really tell what make or model of vehicle it was. And I walked up to the vehicle, and there were two people there, some bystanders, that said, someone's still inside, someone's still inside. So I take a knee next to that vehicle, and I just see an arm of a body just kind of hanging out the window. And I said, hey, can you hear me in there? And I didn't hear anything. So I grabbed his hand, and I said, you know, if you can't talk, squeeze my hand, because sometimes, you know, people are in shock. Didn't really hear anything. So at that point in time, I picked up the RE hydraulic tools that we use, the spreaders, to spread the door open. So I go to spread the door, and as we pull that person out, it was one of my really good friends that I had known for many years. Also, one of my employees that on my side company that I own worked for me. Less than 48 hours before that, he was at my house playing with my kids. And just that moment of realization of holy crap, this is actually what I think it is. And then you start thinking about all the ways that's going to affect you and those around you. How am I going to tell my kids? My wife happened to actually be in the state of California that week on a trip, and the kids were at home, so then I had to go to my parents' house in the morning to pick my kids up. To this day, my daughter goes, I've only seen you cry twice in your life. And that's one of them.
So I have a lot of stacked trauma from the things that I've seen. Traditional insurance only pays for 1 hour of therapy sessions. I have 2-hour sessions because it usually takes me the first 30 to 45 minutes of the session to bring down the walls that I subconsciously put up in order to function day to day. That's called masking. So in order to bring that down, it takes the majority of my session anyway, and I don't get many things done. So my insurance pays for the first hour, and first responder support pays for my second hour. And I go at a minimum every other week. I don't think there is a grasp by the general public a very good grasp on the things that we see. We see people on their worst days, in their worst situation that they are experiencing, and vicariously we experience that trauma by being there and taking care of these people. That's why we never like the question, what's the worst thing you've ever seen? I don't want to talk to you about that because I'm in therapy because of it, and you're going to be in therapy if I tell you about it. So I think, a lot of what we do is, picking up Mima off the floor because she slipped and she's not hurt, and those are the good calls, but we have a lot of bad calls that we see. We see people's families ripped apart unexpectedly and usually in violent ways like car accidents and things like that. And I don't care who you are, you can't spend any time in public safety and not be affected by that. For a lot of us, it's an ongoing thing because of the trauma stacking. I would have to say one of the most significant events of my career was the line of duty death for Chief Bryant Gladney in December of 21. I worked for Bryant. I helped teach his paramedic class for several years. He was a mentor, he was a friend, and I had known him since I joined the fire district in 2006. And his accident happened when I was on duty, and I was the paramedic that took him to the hospital. I teach first responders how to appropriately use Narcan and recognize overdose. And I actually ask them that when I helped build the training, that the first module we do is first responder mental health. I was like, I have these people as captives, so why don't you just let me do that? So I hate this and it makes me extremely uncomfortable, but it is so incredibly important to get the word out about how much public safety struggles with these things and how impactful first responder support has been, not only to me personally, but people that I work with that I care very much about.
The particular call on Claudel is something that, it shows up pretty much every day in my life in some form of capacity. I can remember it was the middle of the night. Getting woken up in the middle of the night at Station 1 is not anything out of the ordinary. It happens to us all the time. This particular one was for a structure fire on Claudel Lane in December of 22. 1:30 in the morning, as anything happens with a fire, we were rushing to the trucks, and as soon as we rolled out of the bays, both of the engine and the ladder, it was very clear. There was heavy fire and confirmed reports of children trapped. And to put yourself into that kind of, mindset, we go to smoke alarms, fires every day. But when there's children there, it hits a little bit different, but you have to suppress that. You have to show up, you have to perform, and find ways to get in, get to them and get them out. Engine 2 was the first one on scene. They reported heavy fire from the second floor of the apartment. And I just remember looking at my engineer and saying, look, when we get there, we're gonna find a window to get in on that second floor for a vent enter search operation. And that is simply putting firefighters in between, the fire and searching searchable space, survivable space. Again, we heard the reports of Engine 2 going on scene, reported heavy fire. They said they were going to pull a line and start fire attack, and there was no doubt in my mind what we were going to be doing. Confirmed all the assignments with my crew, and as soon as we showed up on scene, it was just as Engine 2 had reported. We looked for the only viable window that we had that did not have fire coming out of it, and we threw a ladder to it and got up into the window. And as soon as we went in, we encountered extremely high temperatures, no visibility, and typically with a vent enter search operation, it's a two-person operation. The firefighter goes in, the officer, which would be me, would stay at the door, but there was no time at all. So both of us went in, and I went for the door to kind of get it secured, but it had already burned through. And I made sure to get shut what we could so we could search the room. And I just remember talking to God and asking him to please let these girls be in here. And we did not leave any part of that room unturned. They weren't in there. They were in the room down the hall. I think Engine 2 or somebody else found them, and we didn't. And that's something that sticks with me every day, because you train your hardest to go into environments like this, and you want a positive outcome, and we don't always get positive outcomes, and that's a hard truth to live with. Knowing that there's 20 minutes ago, they're probably having the time of their lives in there at 1 a.m. for kids. And then once everything clears out to overhaul and you're standing in that same room with them, it's not an easy feeling. And what makes it hard is I have kids the same age, and I was not prepared to go home and face them knowing what I knew, and holding them when I got home was the hardest thing I think I've ever done in my life.
My daughter passed away in September. She was 56 years old and had quite a number of years in law enforcement, but not recently because of her alcoholism. She was doing a route down through the southwest area of Columbia. She was patrolling, and she discovered she was pregnant. She had recently remarried, and she reported to the office, as she knew she was required to, that she was pregnant, and they immediately took her off the road. I'm not sure if it was the same night or the next night. I know it was very quickly after that Molly Bowden took over the route that Andrea had been patrolling. And of course, Molly got killed. And I've always believed that Andrea felt responsible for that. She talked about it a little bit, but not a lot. She just felt like it should have been her. She needed to talk about her sadness. And I think she had many things that she was sad about. A lot of distressing car accidents and fatalities and things that, there was one that she called me about where there was a baby that was killed in an accident, and she was very distressed about that. It's such a negative lifestyle to be dealing with bad people all the time. In her case, it was, the special victims and taking children away from families and dealing with dreadful abuse situations, sexual abuse, and women being beaten and all that. I think it piled up. I had not heard from her for 3 days, and we normally talked on the phone every day. So I sent a deputy over to her house to check on her, and I knew what he was going to find.
Well, keep in mind that I know all this stuff. I know all about critical incident stress. I was an academy trainer for law enforcement. I taught this stuff. I helped start the peer support team for Boone County Fire District with Joan. She was the primary on that. So I knew all of this. And I'm not better than anybody else. Probably got some pride, but while I believed it, I knew it, could identify it, I really didn't have it in my head that it could affect me, because I knew all about it. So for some time, for a couple of years, I had been busy traveling, teaching, training. I had been on the road, and I had gotten to the point where I wasn't really enjoying what I was doing. I wasn't enjoying the teaching, the classes. Certainly wasn't enjoying being away from home. Had 650,000 hotel credit points because I was gone so much, and I was just going from job to job. I'd focus on, okay, what have I got to do next? Okay, let's just go do it, get it done. Great, it's done. Okay, where have I got to go Sunday afternoon and drive out of town for the next thing? And it got to a point, October 15th, 2023. I call that my wake-up call and my gift from God. I was preparing to spend a week in Texas teaching in a firearms instructor school, and I give blood every 56 days. And on that Sunday morning, I went to the Red Cross and went to donate blood, and they wouldn't take my blood because my blood pressure was too high. I had felt kind of uneasy for a couple of days leading up to that, but you know, so what? Focus on the mission. I got a job to do. And I actually went to bed the night before and I could hear my pulse in my ears. I could hear the swish just laying on the pillow. But I'm a paramedic, so I can rationalize that away 20 different ways. So got up, truck was packed, wouldn't take my blood, and I called and I talked to Joan, and she said, why don't you call Jill, who was a 30-year friend of ours and an emergency physician at Boone Hospital. We know what this is. I said, yeah, I know what it is too. I know it's stress, and I've been pushing it down for 40 years, but you know, just move on. I guess it's caught up with me. So Jill slides up next to me on the stool next to the cart, and I'm hooked up to all this stuff. And she looks at me and she says, again, I know you like a brother. Is there any way that you don't go to Texas today? Yeah, got it. I don't know what it was. It probably a combination of things, but suddenly I felt like this elephant had been lifted off of my shoulders. I was just, wow. Gosh, I don't know what it is, but I feel better. And then the second part was Joan and Jill had conspired behind my back to access the resources that I didn't even realize were available to me with the first responder system. You're going to see things that absolutely, you'll remember for the rest of your life that will scar you. I call them training scars. You're going to have training scars. And if you don't manage them, if you're not open-minded to that, if you don't accept help, you're going to wind up on the way to Texas imminently having a stroke or a heart attack. I don't know if I have the words. And three of the people, Rick Rowden, the director, I've known personally before this even began. Daryl Smith is a close friend of mine. Don Weaver. These are all local folks who know the system, who know the people. So thank you just won't cut it. But from the bottom of my heart, I think what it means to me is that I'm alive today.